Fruit, sweet, refreshing, packed with vitamins. It's the one food group we're told we can always trust. Apples, bananas, oranges, grapes. They're staples of a healthy lifestyle. And for good reason, many fruits are rich in antioxidants, fiber, and essential nutrients. But what if I told you that some fruits, yes, even the ones you've been eating for decades, could be putting your health at serious risk? You see, not all fruits are created equal. Some contain natural compounds that can interfere with medications. Others spike your blood sugar, increase inflammation, or thin your blood to dangerous levels. And for people over 60 whose bodies metabolize food differently, those effects can quietly build up, especially overnight. Here's the alarming part. Several studies have linked specific fruits to an elevated risk of stroke, especially when consumed at the wrong time or in excess. Fruits that seem perfectly innocent may actually strain your heart, destabilize your blood pressure, and even trigger clotting issues while you sleep. In this video, we're going to walk through 8 so-called healthy fruits that may be doing more harm than good. These aren't exotic or rare. In fact, they're probably in your kitchen right now. Don't get me wrong, this isn't an anti-fruit message. This is about making smart choices based on your age, your health conditions, and how your body changes with time. Because after 60, the rules are different. And when it comes to your brain and blood vessels, even healthy habits can backfire if you don't know what to look for. And if you're someone who cares about protecting your health and staying sharp as you age, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We break down the latest science into simple, practical advice designed specifically for people over 60. Now, let's dive in. If fruit is natural, how could it possibly be harmful? That's a fair question, and one many people ask. But the truth is, as we age, our bodies change in ways that make certain foods affect us differently. And fruit is no exception. Let's start with something most people don't realize. Our metabolism slows down after 60. This means that sugars, even the natural kind found in fruit, linger in the bloodstream longer than they used to. And many fruits, especially the sweeter ones, are loaded with fructose. When that sugar sticks around, it creates inflammation, damages the lining of blood vessels, and increases the risk of clot formation, which can lead to a stroke. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. As we age, our kidneys often don't function as efficiently, even if we feel perfectly fine. That becomes a problem with fruits that are high in potassium, like bananas and oranges. Too much potassium in the blood can lead to heart rhythm disturbances, and in some cases, even cardiac arrest. Then there's something most people overlook: how fruit interacts with medication. Grapefruit, for example, can interfere with enzymes in the liver that process common drugs, like those for high blood pressure or cholesterol. That can make the medication either dangerously strong or not strong enough. And finally, let's not forget that many people over 60 are already managing conditions like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, or atrial fibrillation. In those cases, even a small spike in blood sugar or a slight imbalance in minerals can tip the scales towards serious complications. So no, fruit isn't the enemy. But after 60, it's no longer just about what's healthy in general. It's about what's healthy for you right now in this stage of life. And that means understanding which fruits can silently work against your brain, your heart, and your blood vessels, especially overnight. Let's start with one of the most surprising fruits on this list: grapefruit. It's refreshing, tangy, and often recommended in weight loss diets. But for many older adults, grapefruit is a silent saboteur, especially if you're on medication. Grapefruit contains natural compounds called furanocoumarins. These chemicals interfere with an enzyme in your liver that helps break down over 85 common prescription drugs. The result? Your medication can become too strong or completely ineffective. Blood pressure meds, statins, anti-anxiety drugs, even heart rhythm stabilizers. All of these can interact dangerously with grapefruit. That means one glass of juice in the morning could multiply the effects of your medication, raising the risk of dizziness, bleeding, or even sudden drops in blood pressure. And what makes grapefruit even riskier is timing. Eat it in the evening and it may still be interfering with your medication while you sleep, when your blood pressure naturally drops. That combination can set the stage for a stroke. If you're over 60 and taking any daily medication, especially for your heart or blood pressure, talk to your doctor before eating grapefruit. In some cases, it's best to avoid it altogether. Next up, bananas. They're soft, easy to digest, and full of potassium. In moderation, they can be part of a healthy diet, but if you're over 60, eating too many bananas, especially late in the day, can come with unexpected risks. Potassium is essential for heart and muscle function, but in older adults, especially those with declining kidney function, excess potassium can build up in the blood. That can lead to a condition called hyperkalemia, where the heart's electrical rhythm becomes unstable. The symptoms can be silent at first: fatigue, muscle weakness, or irregular heartbeat. But in some cases, it can lead to sudden cardiac events or increase the risk of stroke in people with atrial fibrillation. Bananas also have a moderate to high glycemic load depending on ripeness. A ripe banana can spike your blood sugar almost as much as a cookie, especially if eaten alone. And when blood sugar rises quickly in the evening, it can trigger a crash during the night, increasing blood pressure variability, which is a known risk factor for stroke. One banana a day may be fine, especially if paired with protein or fiber. But for older adults with kidney disease, high blood pressure, or diabetes, bananas may not be as harmless as they seem. Coming in at number 3, grapes. Small, sweet, and easy to snack on, grapes are often seen as a guilt-free treat. But behind that sweet bite is a fruit that can cause serious problems for older adults, especially when eaten in large amounts or late at night. Grapes are packed with natural sugars, particularly glucose and fructose, which absorb quickly into the bloodstream. A handful of grapes can raise your blood sugar just as fast as a sugary dessert, especially for people with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. This rapid spike can cause a chain reaction, inflammation, oxidative stress, and eventually blood vessel damage, all of which increase the risk of stroke. But that's not all. Grapes also contain resveratrol, a powerful antioxidant, but in high doses it may act as a natural blood thinner. If you're already taking anticoagulants like warfarin or even baby aspirin, this combination could increase bleeding risk, particularly in the brain. And eating grapes in the evening? That's another red flag. Nighttime sugar spikes followed by crashes during sleep can destabilize your nervous system, elevate nighttime blood pressure, and disrupt your heart rhythm, all of which raise the likelihood of a stroke event overnight. So while grapes may seem innocent, for people over 60, especially those on blood thinners or with blood sugar issues, they can become a dangerous habit. At number 4, we have a fruit that many consider a natural remedy: figs. Whether fresh or dried, figs are often praised for their fiber and mineral content. But for older adults, especially those with blood pressure or heart issues, figs can come with hidden dangers. First, let's talk about sugar. Dried figs are incredibly concentrated. Just 3 can contain over 20 grams of sugar. That's more than a glazed donut. These sugars can spike your blood glucose, cause inflammation, and put extra stress on your arteries, a combination that raises your stroke risk, particularly if eaten close to bedtime. But there's something else. Figs have a mild diuretic effect. They stimulate urination, which might not sound dangerous until you consider what happens when the body loses too much fluid overnight. Dehydration thickens the blood, increases pressure in the vessels, and makes clots more likely to form while you sleep. And for those taking blood pressure medications or diuretics already, the combination with figs can cause an excessive drop in blood pressure, leading to dizziness, fatigue, or worse, a sudden cardiovascular event. Figs aren't inherently bad, but if you're over 60 and eating them regularly, especially dried, it's time to think twice. Next on the list, watermelon. It's light, hydrating, and often seen as the perfect summer fruit. But for older adults, especially those with heart or blood pressure concerns, watermelon can be more dangerous than it appears. First, while it's mostly water, watermelon is also surprisingly high in natural sugar, particularly glucose. A typical slice can contain over 17 grams of sugar, and because watermelon has a high glycemic index, it causes a rapid spike in blood sugar shortly after eating. These spikes don't just affect energy levels, they contribute to vascular inflammation, which weakens the walls of your blood vessels and increases the risk of clot formation, especially in people with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. But here's the catch. Watermelon is also a natural diuretic. It promotes fluid loss through urine, and that might sound helpful, until you realize that dehydration thickens the blood, and thickened blood flows more slowly, giving clots a better chance to form and lodge in the brain or lungs. Eating large portions of watermelon in the evening when you're less active and more prone to blood pressure drops can make this even riskier, especially if you're already on diuretics or blood pressure medication. Watermelon can be enjoyed, but in small portions earlier in the day and never as a substitute for hydration, because what seems like a harmless treat could quietly work against your circulation. At number 6, dates. Sweet, chewy, and often labeled as a natural alternative to candy, dates are a favorite among people trying to eat healthier. But don't let their natural label fool you. For people over 60, dates can pose serious risks. Just 2 or 3 dates can contain more than 30 grams of sugar. That's equivalent to a full-size chocolate bar. And unlike whole fruits with water and fiber, dates are dense and concentrated, which means the sugar hits your bloodstream fast. For seniors managing blood sugar or insulin sensitivity, this can lead to sharp glucose spikes, followed by a crash that triggers hunger, fatigue, and pressure fluctuations. But that's not all. Dates are high in calories and can be deceptively easy to overeat. And many people snack on them before bed, thinking they're a natural way to satisfy a sweet tooth. The problem? That sugar surge late at night interferes with sleep, elevates nighttime blood pressure, and increases the workload on your heart when it should be resting. And if you're on blood thinners or have atrial fibrillation, those sugar spikes can lead to greater clotting risk or rhythm instability. Dates may have their place in small quantities, but for older adults, especially in the evening, they're far from harmless. At number 7, mango. Juicy, tropical, and packed with flavor, mango is often praised for its vitamin C and antioxidants. But for older adults, especially those managing blood sugar or heart health, mango can present several hidden risks. First, mango is extremely high in natural sugar, especially when fully ripe. Just one medium mango contains around 45 grams of sugar, more than a can of soda. That much sugar, eaten all at once, can cause a rapid surge in blood glucose, followed by a crash that may increase blood pressure variability. And as we've learned, fluctuating blood pressure is one of the leading triggers for stroke in older adults. But there's another factor to consider. Mango has a thermogenic effect, meaning it slightly raises your body temperature and metabolic activity. That may sound harmless, but in people with heart conditions or arrhythmia, it can overstimulate the cardiovascular system. Eating mango late in the day, especially after dinner or as a dessert, puts extra metabolic pressure on the body right when it should be winding down. And if you're on medications to control blood sugar or blood pressure, the sugar in mango can interfere with how those drugs perform, possibly leading to dizziness, headaches, or even clotting risk. A few mango slices earlier in the day? Maybe. But for people over 60, mango is a fruit that demands moderation and careful timing. And finally, number 8, oranges. They're often the first fruit that comes to mind when we think of vitamin C and immune support. But for older adults, too much orange, especially in the form of juice, can be a silent threat. A single orange isn't the problem. The issue is how easily they're overconsumed, particularly as juice. One glass of orange juice can contain the sugar equivalent of 3 to 4 whole oranges without the fiber to slow absorption. That means a quick spike in blood glucose, followed by insulin surges and vascular stress, especially harmful if you have diabetes, prediabetes, or high blood pressure. Oranges are also high in citrus acid and potassium. For people with kidney issues or those taking ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics, that can lead to hyperkalemia, a dangerous buildup of potassium in the blood. And let's not forget, oranges, like grapefruit, can interact with certain medications, particularly statins and blood pressure drugs. The interaction isn't as strong, but for sensitive individuals, it can still alter drug absorption. Eating multiple oranges or drinking orange juice in the evening can also disrupt blood sugar and interfere with sleep cycles, which increases nighttime cardiovascular strain. So, while an orange a day might be okay, large portions or juice can be risky, especially if you're over 60 and taking medication. So, who really needs to be careful with these fruits? While anyone can experience negative effects from excess sugar or nutrient imbalances, the risks grow much higher after age 60, especially if you're managing chronic conditions. People with high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, or kidney issues are particularly vulnerable, as are those with atrial fibrillation or any type of heart rhythm disturbance. And if you're taking blood thinners, diuretics, or medications for cholesterol or blood pressure, certain fruits can actually interfere with how those drugs work, making them stronger, weaker, or just unpredictable. For these individuals, even a seemingly healthy evening snack could tip the body into a dangerous state, especially overnight when blood pressure naturally drops and clotting risk increases. That's why it's so important to move past the idea of healthy for everyone. Because after 60, what you eat needs to be tailored to your body, your medications, and your stage of life. Now here's the good news. Not all fruits are risky. In fact, some are incredibly beneficial for brain health, blood pressure, and blood sugar stability, especially for people over 60. Take berries, for example. Blueberries, strawberries, and raspberries are packed with antioxidants, but low in sugar. They support circulation and reduce inflammation without causing blood sugar spikes. Green apples are another great choice. Compared to red apples, they have less sugar and more fiber, helping slow digestion and maintain stable energy levels. Avocados, though technically a fruit, are rich in healthy fats, potassium, and magnesium, all of which help regulate blood pressure and support heart function without any of the sugar risks. And don't overlook cherries, especially tart cherries. They've been shown to reduce inflammation and may even help regulate sleep cycles and blood pressure. These fruits not only taste great, they also support your health instead of sabotaging it. The key is to focus on fruits that are low in sugar, high in fiber, and rich in protective nutrients, and to eat them earlier in the day, not before bed. Because after 60, it's not just about eating fruit, it's about eating the right ones, the right way. So how can you enjoy fruit and safely after 60? It starts with timing, portion control, and pairing. First, try to eat fruit earlier in the day, ideally before 4 p.m. That gives your body time to process the natural sugars while you're still active, reducing the risk of nighttime blood pressure drops or blood sugar crashes. Second, focus on portion size. A serving of fruit isn't a whole bowl. It's half a banana, one small apple, or a handful of berries. Even healthy fruits can overwhelm your system if the portion is too large. Third, don't eat fruit alone. especially if it's high in sugar. Instead, combine it with protein or healthy fat, like a few walnuts, a spoon of plain yogurt, or some cottage cheese. This slows down absorption, balances your blood sugar, and reduces strain on your cardiovascular system. And finally, be mindful of how your body reacts. If you feel lightheaded after certain fruits, or if your blood pressure fluctuates at night, that